I want to play a mass of sentient gunpowder that has turned into a human-like thing, and I had this idea of some form of spellcaster that fakes being a gunslinger, but is instead using their gun as an arcane sort of magic wand or whatever Pathfinder uses for that.
There are probably
fun fact,
3 or 4 ways to build that off the top of my head.
There are rules for that?
Yeah. There are rules for that.
Ooh!
Yay! Hello, I'm meeting you for, well, I've known you now for 2 minutes. Outlaw and Discourse. I've been fans of your content already. What, if anything, do you know about Pathfinder 2?
So, my experience with Pathfinder 2 is, like most people who play D&D, I had one friend who really wanted to play Pathfinder at some point. And that one friend, when the OGL nonsense happened early January, was very happy. So we started having small discussions of D&D and then making a TT and TTRPGs in general. And we started looking at Pathfinder because I started getting really interested and started developing my own TTRPG with one of my other friends.
Was that instigated by OGL Gate?
Yes, that was instigated by, like, I'll make my own system with blackjack and hookers, and we started getting on that. And we looked at Pathfinder first because I was like, that seems very similar to what we already know. Let's start branching out and looking into things, and we'll go from there. And what I learned from Pathfinder, what I do know is that numbers be bigger, including the proficiency bonuses. The everything is just massive. Number big. Book big, and so many feats. Then that's what I know. Thank you.
I know that you like to break the system, that you always play level 20. And so yes. I was actually a little surprised you got back to me, because Pathfinder 2E is notorious for saying, hell no, you're not going to break this game. So what's your retort?
My retort to that is, I like breaking D&D because I like pushing the system's mechanics to what their limits are and then building and planning and DMing around those limits. That is what really excites me as a player and as a DM. Now, they also make great thumbnails. So I'm not going... So that's a big instigator in that. But
yeah, maybe a thumbnail that will break records is I broke Pathfinder.
I'll look for it. Apparently it's not. I'll look. I'm not gonna put my stake in the ground and say, like, I bet I'll find it. No, I don't think I will, but I am gonna try.
Other systems besides 5e?
I played a few systems other than 5e. I played a lot of like quick sit like plug and play systems almost, like Morkborg, and one of my favorites is Troika, just because the lore and the writing of Troika is...
I'm laughing because you said Morkborg, and I knew Austin would be interested.
I immediately perked up. Morkborg? You also enjoy Morkborg?
Oh, I'm an avid Morkborg enjoyer. I had a scummy little cretin called Pimple.
All right, everyone, shut the fuck up. This is the Offbeat Outlaw Tabletop Bro Show. We're just gonna talk Morkborg for the next, however much.
I feel like I'm running my middle school after school program. I'm like creating new friend groups. You've looked at Pathfinder, but not actually played it. Have you made a character yet?
No, I have not, because right when I was about to, you DM'd me and said, don't look any further. These are ancient texts. When it comes to like Pathfinder as being like positive things, I really liked the tons of player choice, because I really liked in 5e, the thing that made me most excited when it came to making characters was making characters as a result of their mechanics. Like, what type of person would lead to a character that does 200 plus damage in a single hit? What type of person is that? That's a weird guy. Why are they a cleric, warlock, paladin, fighter? That's a lot of things. They must be well-versed. They're Renaissance man. So that sort of like inspiring roleplay because of what the character can do is... I really liked that as a thing in D&D, and I figured because of how Pathfinder works, I don't see why that can't be a thing in Pathfinder, and I'm really excited to explore that and see what that can result in.
Well, I'm vaguely aware of Pathfinder 2. So whenever I first started actually getting into TTRPGs, I originally started with Dark Heresy, which is a kind of Warhammer 40k style D100 system back in like 2007. And this was during the dark days of 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons. So whenever I moved on to kind of Dungeons and Dragons, I actually played a lot of Pathfinder First Edition. I thought it was Dungeons and Dragons at the time because, well, let's be honest, it was basically Dungeons and Dragons, and that essentially was what my experience of Dungeons and Dragons was for the longest time. Yeah. So I've played Pathfinder First Edition, but that was a long time ago now, right? Like that was like 10, 15 years ago now at this stage. I haven't touched Pathfinder Second Edition at all. I'm vaguely aware of it. I understand it's like updated a lot of the mechanics and things like that. But apart from that, I don't know a lot. As for like RPG experience, I've played a lot of different RPGs. I'm not someone who like gets settled in a system and then stays there. I've played a lot, well, except for maybe Call of Cthulhu. I keep coming back to that game, but that's just so light and easy to play. Call of Cthulhu, Delta Green, World of Darkness is a big one. I like a lot of horror, actually, RPGs and things like that. So maybe I should check out Mork Bork at some stage, because this is basically like a horror fantasy game, right?
It's so sick.
But yeah, so I've played a ton of different RPGs, but never Pathfinder Second Edition.
And I know before your Dungeons and Discourse channel, you had Discourse Minis. In, like, how big is wargaming compared to RPG? You know, what's the proportion in your gaming life?
It kind of swings, it kind of swings back and forth. They're about equal. But I think before the pandemic, RPGs probably.
I'm going to introduce my mates. These are the original three that also Tabletop Bro made content about this, about how this whole D&D YouTuber series was originally me just looking for a fourth player to play Pathfinder with my friends, who I've met online via my channel. This is kind of a hybrid, D&D YouTuber series, and also me. I'm going to be a little more myself, I think, here. I'm going to be a little more... in the other group, I think I'm on my better behavior. They're a little more... I would call them like... It's almost like... I think this is going to be the Zanier group. I'm just going to say that.
Zanier group. Okay.
This is the fun group, and they're the serious group.
Yeah, they're like the United Nations of... I feel like I have to be... anyway, but go ahead, Sean.
Germany?
So,
No.
Then I kind of came to the realization 4 years into 5e that 5e was not going to give me the game that I want to run unless I spent a lot of time making 5e not 5e anymore. And at that point, I started looking at other systems. I came across Pathfinder 2 at that point, and specifically Ronald's like early videos. Because I joined his Discord when we had sub 30 members, and I'm going to say that again and again. The things I was trying to modify into 5e was things for tactical combat, but I still wanted to keep a fantasy genre. So I was looking for something within the fantasy genre that would give me tactical combat that wouldn't fall apart high levels.
When I made my most recent video, I learned that Ronald was actually my 5th subscriber. I now have 2,300, so let's go. Day one. To our new friends here, I'm more of a rules light guy. I am the rules light delegation. Specifically kind of specializing in PBTA, I guess. I run a Dungeon World West Marches game on my community Discord server. It's dope.
I used to run a little YouTube channel, which was basically just to help me get my editing skills up to get a job. Now I got the job. I'll upload again one day when I'm not crazy busy. I got started playing D&D 4th edition, and I was like, I don't get why everyone doesn't like this. Which is probably why I like PF2 so much, because, Discourse, you might not like to hear this, but there's a lot of 4th edition in Pathfinder 2nd edition. There's a lot of like that kind of abilities sort of thing. They dress it nicer, but it's pretty similar.
That's fine. I like war games, I like war games as well.
Sean and Dominic are both, I would call them Pathfinder vets, and Austin, this is perhaps your second game. Have you all had a chance to read the player's guide for our campaign, Outlaws of Alkenstar?
Mm-hmm.
So the premise that unites all of you is that you all are actual outlaws. You are on the wrong side of the law for some reason. It could have been something serious, something minor. You could be wrongly accused. But whatever it was, it put you in conflict with one of the two powers in this. Well, one of the two corrupt powers in the city. Lovelace, the sheriff, of the Shield Marshals, or Ambrose Mugland, the financier. This is set in Alkenstar, which is in the Mana Wastes, which is the magical no man's land. There's mana storms, and there's magic operates weirdly. It's in between two nations called Nex and Geb, which have been at war with each other for thousands of years. They're named after their respective archmages. Alkenstar is a city in the middle of this area that got explosives and other kind of technology from the Sky Dwarves, who are nearby. And it's an industrial steampunk, industrial age kind of town. So that's the setting. And I want to hear from folks what kind of character ideas you have.
My class will be monk. And that's where I'm going to start. But I'm not going to be playing like the monks that you would expect a monk to play like. Because you see, my monk
He's going to play grapple monk. Sorry.
No, you see, I'm going to buck your expectations here as well.
For him.
I am not playing a grappler for once in my life.
Oh, are you going to have like shaved your head and like make wine?
No.
I think I'm going to be the person that's like, I want to play the gunslinger in this western thing. I'm gonna be the first one to throw my hand in that ring. So I am thinking I have a bit of an idea of a character, because I'm aware that there is a gunslinger obviously in Pathfinder, and it's a little bit novel, right? Because at this stage I suppose my impressions are shaped more by D&D 5th edition, so it's a bit novel to have guns and things like that. So I think I'll definitely take advantage of that. Likewise, I like goblins. Okay, no one judge me for this. I've always liked goblins. Goblins are cool, and I'm glad that now everyone else is starting to agree that goblins are indeed cool. It's become a little bit of a thing lately, so that's excellent. So I'm thinking about playing a goblin gunslinger of some kind. Specifically, though, I'm thinking of a goblin who was raised in a seminary and goes by the name of Papa Fancy, who is a refined goblin who is also an outlaw. So this is kind of like their, like Western cowboys, like banditos and stuff like that. They would have these larger than life kind of characterizations of themselves, these kind of gimmicks that they would, like wrestlers, right? Where they would all have like their thing. Well, this Papa Fancy is the type of goblin that whenever they're out camping, whenever they're rustling cattle and such, he'll eat with a knife and fork because he's fancy like that. And he'll have a fancy coat and things. So I'm thinking that's the vibe that I'm going to go for.
And how does he get in the wrong side of the law?
He is definitely he commits all sorts of like robberies and he's a cattle rustler. He's an outlaw. He's a bandit, essentially, but he can put on airs.
I didn't look at any of the classes or nothing because you told me not to, and I'm a good boy. But I saw the inexplicably expelled background, and I had an idea of it talks about like this failed experiment, and I was like, I want to be the failed experiment. And I was wondering if maybe if this could translate to something of, I want to play a mass of sentient gunpowder that has turned into a human-like thing, and I had this idea of some form of spellcaster that fakes being a gunslinger, but is instead using their gun as an arcane sort of magic wand or whatever Pathfinder uses for that.
So, fun fact,
3 or 4 ways to build that off the top of my head.
There are rules for that?
Yeah. There are rules for that.
Ooh!
What are you thinking, Sean? I was wondering about automaton and flesh warp, but what do you think?
My brain moved to the ooze morph dedication archetype, so that way you could turn into the pile of gunpowder to slide places.
I'm proposing we use the free archetype variant so that you have more feats to choose from, and it showcases the flexibility of character concepts. And an archetype is this system's version of multi-classing.
Okay.
Archetypes are not always about another class. They can be something that is classless, like Oozemorph. Is there an instigating moment that made you on the wrong side of the law?
The whole lab went kaboom boom, and the guy who was making me died. And then I was like, well, this seems like a bad place for me to be. So I left, but then Ambrose Mugland or whoever came and was like, This was my lab. The experiment got away. This thing's now illegal to be here. Get him! I was made to serve this guy as a combat situation. I don't know how I was exactly created. Don't know if I care to BH. If I find out, cool. I'm just sentient gunpowder now, trying to live my sentient gunpowder life. Ash Oracle sounds sort of what I'm thinking in my. That sounds like it. I don't know what that means, but it sounds like it.
So oracles are cursed, and as you do specific, like class-specific spells, your curse gets worse. So it gives you debuffs, but it also gives you specific benefits. The Ash Oracle sounds close to gunpowder, and basically your bits of you just slough off and whip around you in a frenzy of gunpowder and do fire damage to people.
That sounds like the thing. I think that might be the one.
There's not a pile of Ash ancestry yet, but Flesh Warp does get at the idea of an experiment. You were an experiment, so maybe we can, re-flavor that as 5e players now.
My schedule's kind of slammed until May, so I'm not really going to be available to actually play this game until May, so I haven't really thought that much. I know that I want to play a rogue. I can/will adapt based on how play evolves.
Out of my 9 or 10 characters I may have made, at the moment I'm thinking of going a bushranger poet bard, a portal open to World War One, Earth from Galarian. So I think out in the Manor Wastes, my character met Joe Byrne, and Joe Byrne gave him his journal of poems, and it's just infested his mind. He's like, wow, I fucking love this dude. I'm gonna tell his poems, and through that interdimensional across space and time poetry, that's where he gets his occult magic.
I think we should get to work. I shared everybody the Google Doc that is a table that everybody can start working on.
How are labor laws in Alkenstar?
Those in powers make the law.
So are we talking 1920s United States where they're bringing in union busters who are just beating the piss out of striking workers? I want to be an outlaw because I was fucking organizing strikes and doing cool labor shit.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's playing both sides, so he always
comes out
on top.
That way I always come out on top. And I'm in trouble with both sides.
But I forgot to ask Dominic, you're on the wrong side of the law how, besides being weird?
Background smuggling guns out in the Manor Wastes is where he had that encounter.
The Battlesuit Ancestry's Year of Monsters, I don't know when it comes out, but I supported their Kickstarter. They have a slime ancestry.
That is one of the things I planned. I was going to mention that.
Throw questions at me. This is the boring part of the stream where it's
or me
recording. Also, I'm very generous with respecs. Don't feel, like it has to. These things are choices for all time.
What are the firearms like? Because I'm actually not sure.
Gunslingers have higher accuracy with guns than everyone else. It's not like Pathfinder 1 where they hit touch AC. It's you just get +2 to hit. And they do less damage on regular hits, but they do way more damage on crits. And because with Pathfinder 2, you crit on a +10, the extra accuracy helps with that. So basically you're crit fishing. That's how guns work.
Okay. That sounds fun. I quite
guns then also require you to reload as another action. So you burn another action, then repack your gun. But in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you have 3 actions per turn. And every attack after the first in a turn is at a -5 penalty. So a gunslinger is very frequently shooting off their one shot, and then doing a fancy action lets them do something while reloading, and they have a third action to play with.
Okay, cool.
That's usually how Gunslinger goes in terms of the ebb and flow.
Okay, that's the gameplay loop.
You usually choose your subclass at level 1 in Pathfinder. Level 1 characters are more kitted out and are comparable to third level characters in 5e. Discourse is going to jump around a bit. I recommend, in addition to thinking about her weapon, to look at her Gunslinger Way. That's what the subclass is called. Now for Outlaw. So you're choosing. Oh, he's applying his background. I feel like an announcer.
He's applying his background.
In addition to choosing Ash, you want to choose the domain, destruction or fire.
The fire ray thing, I think, is gonna make me. It's gonna make me happy. I think I'm gonna do that because I feel like I'm gonna do that a lot. So I'm gonna take the fire domain. I see True Strike is mentioned here. Is this a good spell in this, or is it still bad?
True Strike is actually
It's real
really
good
good
in
in
this.
Pathfinder 2nd.
I've played higher level characters where I've like all my second and third level spell slots just end up being True Strike as well, even though True Strike doesn't heighten.
That's wacky. This is truly a brave new world we have entered. I'm really excited about that major curse thing. That looks hilarious. Then your moderate curse is you and all creatures gain weakness to fire equal to half your level. Does weakness work kind of like the opposite of resist? That's so cool.
Exactly. Yep.
I'm really excited for that.
So
I'm
they-
just gonna walk into people and go like, light them up.
Now that we have an Oracle in the group, I am not inclined to use the Wellspring variant because, one, he already has an eye on an archetype that he wants to take at level 2. But also, we have enough complexity. So I don't think...
There's too much nonsense already happening.
Yeah.
Too many
If it feels like it's too much for me, it's probably going to be too much for the new players.
I don't think we need a wild magic Ash Oracle that also is a pile of sentient gunpowder to be like...
Yeah, that has an
of
orchestra
that? I
following
think
him
that's a
from
little-
one of...
Yeah, I don't think we need an orchestra playing fitting background music at all times in the setting as well.
Whoa,
That just
hold on.
randomly happens
Hold on.
sometimes.
What are you talking about? That sounds necessary.
Okay, all right. You know, I'm starting to see that we're getting the opposite effect sometimes with Outlaw that we thought.
It lets
So-
anyone be a wild magic sorcerer.
I had
This is the wild... Yeah.
Oh, I love complicated, stupid things in TTRPGs. Do not keep this from me. I'm gonna be that.
75% chance when a combat starts that you have a temporary spell slot for that combat. If you don't spend it within a minute, you get a Wellspring Surge. Also, the other 25% chance is you just get the Wellspring Surge and something weird happens.
I'm a fan. But I am looking at the Strike Up the Band, and that sounds very good. That sounds really good.
Well, Blastlock also lets you pick things with your gun accuracy instead of your thievery.
But
It also makes noise, though.
yeah, and
It also
I'm
makes a lot of
good with
noise.
thievery is the thing.
We have someone made of gunpowder. I don't think we're going to be as necessarily sneaky as this bank heist needs us to be.
I mean, I don't know about your plans, but I was planning on shooting, like just blasting it at the first
I should get
opportunity.
these-
I think for my starting feat, I'm going to take dual weapon reload with the hope that I can purchase a second weapon then at some stage in order to wield two.
Did you choose the Gunslinger way yet?
Yes, pistolero.
Pistolero.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I'm going to spin my guns roundy round and be really fancy, like Billy the Kid.
And I'm going to be lowering people's will saves and perception DC, so both fainting and demoralizing will become stronger once I hit level 2 and take Bon Mot.
Cool.
I was about to
I'm gonna
say,
be
this
buffing
group
Theo.
needs Bon Ma.
Yeah,
insult
Bon Mot
people.
is going to be so good for this group.
What's Bon Ma?
It just lets you quip at somebody like you're in a Marvel movie, and then if your quip is good enough, they become distracted, and they then either need to return your quip as one of their actions to remove the debuff, or just live with you getting free real estate in their
So
head.
fucking funny.
I wanted to read it, actually. It's very funny.
Critical failure. Your quip's
critical
atrocious. You take the same penalty an enemy would take had you succeeded. So you have to then use an action to save your quip after you fucked up your quip. You're like, I was with your mom.
We had a game pretty recently, like just after Christmas.
Awful stuff.
Someone critically failed the Bon Mo against the boss, and then the boss cast Phantasmal Killer on them, which is if so, and his own debuff was the exact number to critically fail the Phantasmal Killer, and then he failed this Fortitude save, and it's just instant death. Incredible.
You could have a combo where someone insults an enemy, that enemy gets a -2 to their perception. Then the Gunslinger does something distracting or hides, and their perception's lower, and then makes them flat-footed, and then critical hit. Yeah, any general thoughts, impressions, comparisons to 5e or other systems?
The surprise to me is how flexible the system is. It almost feels a little bit like GURPS in a lot of ways, in that,
Ooh.
as opposed to kind of Dungeons and Dragons, very constrained. But the fact that, for example, that Outlaw was able to construct a gunpowder person, right? was very interesting, because I was surprised that it was that flexible. Even if some of the stuff is kind of like a reskin of existing mechanics, the fact that you could even do, because I don't even know how you would even begin approaching a character like that in Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like it would be pretty tough, be pretty difficult.
Outlaw, did you find stuff in Flesh Warp that goes with your character?
I found the lore to be quite useful in defining kind of like settling on the vibe. The overall things like it seems to be more focused on like the body horror type genre as a whole, as a character concept. So I found it to be really interesting to at least look at and take an inspiration from, and then take some of the more magically inclined stuff. So I definitely did find stuff that mechanically represented what I wanted. Because like if to sort of piggyback off of Discourse's point of like what like approaching this in D&D terms, you'd almost have to quite exclusively approach it through flavoring spells, like which I enjoy doing personally, but I can definitely see how that's like it can be just annoying. It's like, oh man, I can never make any concept work unless I'm a goddamn wizard who's doing everything. So I did enjoy that, like, oh, there's already stuff here that represents more the flavor and the language that I want to see when I'm playing these characters,
I think it would be really cool if, something changes in a battle because you were, somebody was in your ash cloud, or you became harder to, you couldn't quite get to that point because you were part ash and your speed slowed down to have these little things that
where that
have
kind
a mechanical effect.
And they impact on the actual narrative of the story based on what you've built, as opposed to just being fluff. I always find that with Dungeons and Dragons, a lot of people are like, I'm playing this kind of character, but most of the time it's just fluff. It doesn't actually impact the kind of game state in any way. It's just sort of a kind of just a bit of a fun retheming. It's interesting to actually see that get statted out. It feels more real, more tangible in that
You have
case.
to work really hard in 5e to make that feel real. You have to like I've for my level 20 campaign that I DM on Fridays, like I have to jerry rig the crap out of it to make effects feel like the thing. Like the 5e's got I enjoy the system for what it is, but like this sort of mechanical representation of different things is definitely not present. That's definitely its weakest attribute.
If Austin were here, he'd point out how at rules light games, you won't. It's much more like a conversation between the game master and the player can say like, "Hey, how about it's I'm able to do this," and then the GM can say yes. But under 5e, because things are structured and defined, there is a pressure to, make your build choices matter and not go too far. Things are just more defined.
That's the struggle, though, with a lot of these kind of, and I would say Pathfinder is the same, but to a much less extent to Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. But to these kind of, I would call them almost like war games, right? Where the focus of the game is on combat in some way, and on kind of resolving problems in the game via combat, and they often have like boards and mats and an actual movement and the kind of wargaming element. They tend to, how you interact with the world and how you begin to create your character always starts off typically from like a class. How am I going to interact with the world? What kind of violence am I going to be inflicting? Am I going to be inflicting it via magic or, with a weapon? As opposed to those rules light systems, which I find tends to be more focused on character. Now, that said, it does feel like Pathfinder has a lot more scope for different character types that you can actually bring into that. It's just a lot more flexible, it seems.
I only have one last suggestion for Offbeat, which is to have a look at the Ifrit Versatile Heritage for Flesh Warp, just to add that little bit more extra ashy.
A little bit of spice.
Let's look into this jazz.
And what it basically does is it gives you another list of ancestry feats you can pick from that are all like fire elemental themed.
In addition to what...
Bless, thank you. I like this a lot.
Anyone that tells me that D&D 5e is a rules light system, I smack him in the face.
Who says that?
Who dare?
Boston. It's like they're going rules medium, but they're trying to wrap it in rules light. So it's just make it up, I guess, except for combat. But you don't have to do combat. You can do other things. We just only have rules for that, which is
Oh, Dungeons and Dragons is a combat game, right?
Oh,
It's a war game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just the marketing around it.
Your ancestry feat that you're taking can be either Ifrit or Fleshwarp.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Okay, gotcha. I love that. I'm gonna pick something else then.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah.
Pathfinder.
So there's this ability called what is it? Where is it? Show me! It is Inner Fire. You can cast a Produce Flame cantrip as an innate, primal, or arcane spell at will. A cantrip is heightened to a spell level equal to half your level rounded up. Now, I already have the Produce Flame cantrip, but this does heighten it already. Is that worthwhile for me
It's
taking?
already heightened, and if there's anything... Yeah, however, I'd let you reskin another spell to make it fire, like Acid Splash or...
Haunting Hymn's pretty cool. It's like a mini Burning Hands.
Oh yeah, Burning Hands. You can make it a Burning Hands. We'll rename it what?
We can name it
Blazing Him.
Spit Hot Fire.
Oh, I kind of like the name Ignite
Spitfire.
As like a name.
Spitfire? Yo, I'm just gonna rap at them. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
There is a spell that actually does.
Oh yeah,
it'll
still have the verbal whatever. Does it have that trait? Auditory.
It's also got the
Hypersonic.
the on a crit it deafens them as well. So
Okay, we are done.
Awesome.
Yay! I'm excited. So you guys, your first mission will be a bank heist. You'll be given this mission, and it's also a way to strike at Mugland and Loveless at the
Nice.
same time.
We'll be going loud,
Okay.
right? We'll be going very, very loud.
Very so loud. They will hear us.
I mean, I could go a little quiet.
All the veterans are like, oh, please, let's do it quiet, please.
It's a Paizo AP. If they did not expect us to go in guns blazing, they...
Yeah.
But it would also be true to genre for it to go wrong, right?
Yeah,
For something to
of
go
course.
sideways.
I think the common expectation is it goes sideways at some point. So
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. I will see you in 2 weeks. Okay.
all right.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.